Australia is going to be a free white nation. Australia is going to have a singular white identity, and the logistics of how we're going to create that is downstream of the belief in that idea. So the there's about 1,000 ways of going about it. There's many different policies that you could put in place. Like to start with, you'd stop immigration, just full stop from the
Yeah.
third world. You'd allow a little bit of migration, perhaps from Europe, but and America, but you'd more or less stop immigration completely from non-Western countries. I would deport within the first year all of this so-called student visas. We have millions of Indians and Chinese in the country that are here on so-called skilled labor visas and student visas, and it's fake. They don't have a skilled, like you can get a skilled labor visa and be a fingernail technician. I mean, it's just crazy. We're just importing a million Uber Eats drivers into the country, and I tell all the fat cunts that they can go pick up their own food. Like we don't need a million Uber Eats drivers. So
Yeah, stop being so fucking lazy.
exactly, it's people want slaves, and often white supremacists or white nationalists or national socialists we're treated as if we're this group of people that we just want to treat all the brown people as slaves. And I would say it's actually the opposite. I actually don't think slavery is a good idea. I'm actually against slavery. It's the capitalist liberal Democrats that want slavery. They want their Uber Eats drivers. They want their nail technicians. They want someone to clean their house and clean their toilet. They want the slaves. I want us to clean our own toilet. I want us to pick up our own rubbish. I want white people to be free and noble. And there's nothing more noble than self-sufficiency and looking after yourself and picking up after yourself. I really dislike this culture that has somehow formed out of liberal democracy, where they can pretend that they're virtuous and noble by migrating millions of slaves into the country, and then they don't call them slaves. It's not slavery; it's slavery by another name. It's skilled labor, and we're going to grow the economy. Whose economy? Whose economy are we growing? The slave owners. That's it. So I would deport millions of these foreign students. I mean, the universities have completely taken the piss. Like you go, like I'm not at university, but a lot of the young guys in the organization are. They go to a lecture, and the lecture's in Chinese. This is at an Australian university,
That's wild.
and they're doing accounting or they're doing engineering, and the lecture is in Chinese. And then the lecturer says to the white guy in the room, "Oh, sorry, what I said just then," and then repeats himself in English.
Methylene blue has been used for over 100 years for medical purposes and recently surged back into popularity. It has been shown to help repair brain tissue and improve memory, cognitive function, energy, and mood. Research suggests that methylene blue could have neuroprotective effects, possibly aiding in conditions like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Go to MerakiMedicinal.com and use the promo code FIGHTBACK for a discount.
Yeah, in the U.S., we have, like you said, obviously legal immigration problems. We have the same thing when they're bringing in tons of legal immigrants. Like, I lost my verification when I was speaking against the H-1, whatever visas that Elon Musk
H-1B.
wanted
Yeah.
for these Indian workers. And I don't hate Indian people, but like I have a bunch of friends in tech, and they're coming in taking all their high-paying jobs. So it's not just the low jobs; it's these high-paying, several $100,000 a year, and they're given to an Indian person for like half the price. Like, how is that good for America? I see this, and it's like, doesn't mean I hate Indian people, but I don't see that as being good for my country. And that's when Elon took away my check mark.
Yeah, it's
Well, he banned you, so it's even worse. So I guess I shouldn't be complaining.
yeah. We were banned. I don't think directly from Elon Musk. The Australian government is trying to do a cover-up of it, but I believe that they banned that the Australian government actually interfered in the so-called democracy by what they've done in the past. I know when we were banned off Facebook, we did a freedom of information, and we found that the State Department, it actually came from the Prime Minister's office. It wasn't signed by the Prime Minister, but it was signed by one of his acolytes. Actually sent a letter to Facebook saying, if you don't ban these guys off Facebook, we're going to sue you for spreading misinformation or some nonsense. And Facebook was like, yep, all right, sweet, that gives us our excuse. They obviously wanted to ban us but didn't, but then they got their permission to do it. So I think the situation with Musk is the same. He says he's for freedom of speech, but I think that they do see white people collectivizing and advocating for their own interests as a threat to, I mean, I won't speculate too much, but on his particular political views, but I know there's a growing faction within the conservatives that want us to be friends with India geopolitically because we're potentially going to war with China. And India and China are great adversaries, and they're playing countries off each other. And they're still, when you study Roman history, this is how Rome collapsed. You're trying to play this guy off this guy. Well, what about the Romans? Who actually built Rome? You know, and that's kind of the situation we're in, where, yeah, you want to play all these games at this geopolitical level. It's like, but we don't actually have national sovereignty anymore. And you're silencing your own fighting class. I mean, you're silencing the white fighters, like the men in my organization and the men that built Australia. We are not going to fight for globo homo. You know, we're willing to fight for Australia. And if there was a war against China, you know, we're the bread and butter of the fighting class. And we hate the government. You know, we think the government are traitors. So they're turning their own martial class against them.
Yeah, I don't know Australian history that well, but I believe it was, pretty much white men that came in and made that country great pretty quick, and now it's being flooded with immigrants. So it's like tricky situation. Like what year did they really start flooding immigrants into Australia? Do you know or no?
They started very slowly in the 70s with some refugees from the Vietnam War. And they did the same argument that they did at the end of the Afghan conflict, where they said, oh, these are translators, these are people that help the army, oh, these are people that would be political prisoners, they would be killed by the communists if we don't let them in. So if you don't let them in, they're going to die. So it's like literally life or death. And so you have to bring in sort of 10,000 or 15,000 Vietnamese. And Australia didn't like that. That caused a lot of issues in the 80s, where these Vietnamese groups formed gangs and started selling a lot of heroin. And that's where that romper stomper, Australian skinhead scene really became popularized. And that was probably the first group. After that, in the 80s and 90s, they brought a lot of doctors and lawyers and engineers from China and India. So these were Western educated guys. They spoke the Queen's English. They went to either a US or a British school in their own countries. They went to university, usually internationally, either in Britain or in the US or in New Zealand. And they came into the country and they were walking, talking, the fact that they were Indian or Chinese was irrelevant. They basically acted exactly like an Australian. And we got maybe like 100,000 like that. And that was what we call the salt and pepper multiculturalism phase, where Australia was maybe 5% non-European. We're about 95% white and about 5% non-white. And there was a little bit of a, kickback against that. But it ultimately got superseded by the fact that the economy is doing fine. And now we've gone from probably being 95% white to being, I don't know, maybe 65% white.